Hello again, YVV. I thought I would take a few minutes to talk a little bit about the mark of the beast, because we really don't have time during the sermon series for me to sort of deviate into that pathway. There's too many other things to talk about. So I thought I'd make this video to talk about the so-called mark of the beast. And you know, there's probably no other concept in the Bible that generates as much grist for the Christian rumor mill as does this idea of the mark of the beast. And there's a lot of theories, of course, that make the rounds, you know, anything from subdermal microchips in your right hand or your forehead, to barcodes, to more recently, I guess, vaccines. But I want to suggest to you that actually the reality behind this mark is far less sensational than what's offered by a lot of these different popular theories. Now, the mark of the beast appears in chapter 13 of Revelation, and in that chapter we see the Satan calling up two beasts. The first beast is a beast out of the sea that really anyone in the first century would interpret or would have identified as Rome. It would have been very clear to them as Rome or the Roman Empire. Then there is a second beast, one out of the earth. And scholars like G.B. Caird and N.T. Wright and Richard Balcom, they all see this, and I agree with them, they all see this beast as representing the local government officials or the government apparatus in Asia Minor that administers affairs for Rome on Rome's behalf. Rome loved to work through the existing local structures that were already there when it sort of took over a region. So this second beast would be the local officials who administer affairs for Rome, and also that includes administering the cult of Rome and enforcing that cult, the cult of the emperor and emperor worship. And I think that interpretation makes a lot of sense of what we read about this particular beast, about the beast out of the earth. And in chapter 13 we read this. It says, that's the beast out of the earth, it exercises all the authority of the first beast on its behalf, and it makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And of course, it's this beast who actually compels the people of the world to receive what we call the mark of the beast, this mark. And this is what it says in verse 16. Also, it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be given a mark on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell who does not have the mark, that is, the name of the beast or the number of its name. But here's the interesting thing about this, the name of the beast or the number for its name. The interesting thing is that John expects his audience to be able to solve the puzzle, because this is what he says in verse 18. This calls for wisdom. Let anyone with understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number for a person. Its number is 666. We see that he expects his audience to be able to work this out. He tells them, anyone with wisdom, to calculate the number, or calculate the number of the name. Now, what is this referring to? Well, first of all, we should say that if in Hebrew thinking the number 7 is the number of perfection, well, then the number 6 is less than perfection. It's less than perfect. If you like, it's a cheap imitation of the real thing. And that fits with what else is going on in this passage. But there is something more going on. What does John mean when he talks about calculating the number? Well, it's something that is called gematria. Gematria, it's a Hebrew word. And the way we understand this is like so. Ancient languages like Greek, like Latin, like Hebrew, they did not have numerals the way that we have numerals today to write our numbers. Instead of numerals, they would use letters to write numbers. And we're familiar with this idea because we're familiar with Roman numerals. Well, of course, Roman numerals are actually just Roman or Latin letters that Roman people and Latin speakers would use to write their numbers. And other languages, of course, had this as well. Hebrew would do this. Greek would do this. And so people would play a little bit of a game with people's names and with the numbers that their names would calculate. So it was you would reference people by using the numbers made by adding up the value of the different letters in their names. We have examples of this actually in the Roman world. When Pompeii, the city of Pompeii, was buried by the volcano Vesuvius. Of course, it preserved that entire town, and in very recent history, the last say 300 years, it was excavated, and so we have a very well preserved town in Pompeii. One of the things that was found in Pompeii was graffiti, and the graffiti read this: "I love her whose number is 545." And of course, it's almost like a school kids game that they would play in the classes that I would teach. Sort of passing notes to each other. Well, of course, this is a reference to an actual person whose number is 545. And I suppose people could perhaps use the number to work out the girl that this person was talking about, or the boy that this person was talking about, or perhaps it's a message directly to that person, hoping that they'll work out the number of the name. Well, all that to say this, that actually the words Nero Caesar, or the name Nero Caesar in Hebrew, happens to yield the number 666 when you use this system to calculate the value of the letters of Nero Caesar. Now, you might ask, or you might be listening to this and say, is it really that easy? Well, yes, actually, we can be pretty sure that it is just that easy. One of the ways is this. There's a second way, believe it or not. There's a second way to actually render Caesar Nero in Hebrew, which would yield a different number, which would actually yield the number 616. And sure enough, we actually have early manuscripts of Revelation where the number of the beast is given as 616, as though sort of a scribe or copyist came to this passage of Revelation, understood that the reference was to Nero, but adjusted the number to match a different Hebrew rendering of the name. Now, Nero, of course, was a famous persecutor of Christians, and Nero had died by his own hand in AD 68. But there was a widespread conspiracy theory floating around that he wasn't really dead, that he was just in hiding, and he would rise again to retake control of the Roman Empire. In fact, actually, a few guys even sort of popped up claiming that they were him, that they were Nero. One of them was even supported by the Parthian government in their hopes to sort of take control of Rome themselves. And that actually might be what's behind the wound that the head of the monster or the beast from the sea has. It says that he has a wound, one of his heads has been wounded and has been healed, and it's referenced a number of times in this passage. Now, look, John is probably not saying or not thinking that Nero is going to actually rise again from the dead, but he may be talking about some sort of new Nero, if you like, almost a reincarnation of Nero. In fact, that might actually be how he perceives the current emperor Domitian, the emperor at the time of writing this book. Now, hope that gives some clarity as what the mark of the beast refers to in this passage. But of course, what does it mean in actual practice? And what does John expect this to look like? Well, whatever else it might be, it's clearly a mark of loyalty. It's a mark of allegiance. In the next section, we see the 144,000 standing with the Lamb on Mount Zion. They all have the Lamb's mark, the name of his father, on their foreheads. And it's obvious that this is a symbolic mark. It's not a physical mark as much as a symbolic mark. So it's likely that the beast's mark is equally and also symbolic. These marks separate and identify those who follow the beast and those who follow the lamb, those who are allegiant to the beast and those who are allegiant to the lamb. So choosing your side is choosing your mark or choosing your brand. And all this means, I want you to get this, all this means don't panic. You have not somehow taken the mark of the beast by accident or in ignorance. You've chosen to follow Jesus, which means you have accepted, you have taken his mark upon you. So a little bit of me wants to say, relax, just be cool. You don't need to really worry about the mark of the beast in this day and age, as much as we should worry, or not worry, but we should focus on our allegiance and our loyalty to Jesus.